Very good morning and good evening to everyone. I am delighted to welcome you to the first webinar in the series hosted by VRise. Today's session is titled the Retail Resilience Forum, where automation meets cybersecurity. Let me give a quick round of introductions for our two esteemed individuals who are here with us today. The first of our panelists is Joshua Danielson. He is the founder and CEO of Custos, a leading cybersecurity consulting firm. Before starting Custos, Joshua was the head of enterprise security at Shopify, and I'm pretty sure we all know what Shopify as a platform is. And prior to that, he was the CISO at Copart, which is a Standard & Poor 500 company. Joshua is an active member of the security community and on several venture capital advisory boards. He brings almost 2 decades of experience in securing classified national defense assets and as well as protecting some of the world's largest financial and e-commerce platforms. The other panelist that we have with us today is Krishna Gangu. He is a distinguished architect at J.C. Penney with nearly 2 decades of experience in digital transformation. Krishna, fondly known as KC by many, has not only revolutionized how e-commerce and digital platforms operate, but has also extended his leadership beyond the tech world into impactful social welfare initiatives. He is a senior IEEE member and an avid Mac ambassador, and was instrumental in navigating JCPenney through the technological advancement where it stands today. I would be your moderator. My name is Roji Menon. I head the digital engineering and experience portfolio for VRise. VRise is a global digital services company specializing in end-to-end digital engineering solutions. Founded in 2020, we are today at around 400 professionals operating across North America, India, Belgrade, Johannesburg, and Colombia. We provide services across consulting, engineering, AI, supply chain, just to name a few, and across several industry verticals. With that said, a couple of housekeeping rules. We would be muting all the participants to reduce the feedback. Please feel free to ask your questions at any point in time through the QA panel window. You have a button at the top. We have a couple of screenshots here on the slide. We have a dedicated Q&A period towards the end of the webinar, 5 to 10 minutes. All the recordings for the webinar would be available on our YouTube channel. I have the link pasted down there, but feel free to search for VRise and click on the playlists and webinars. You should be able to share that with your friends, family, and whoever finds this data set important. Moving on to the agenda, I've kind of summarized what we would be talking about with our panelists. So we would start with automation in retail, cybersecurity in today's age, the challenges that we face in automation as well as cybersecurity, and eventually how they complement each other. With that said, let's dive into the panel discussions. I would probably begin with Casey. The first question that I had in mind was, Casey, automation is pretty hyped. It's a pretty hyped up terminology, right? But we know that it has transformed operational efficiency and customer experiences. Now, from your experience in J.C. Penney, what do you think are the key advancements and challenges that you have observed during this transformation?
Sure. First of all, thank you, Roji, for the introduction and giving me the opportunity to come and speak with the VRiseans, I would say. Thanks for the opportunity once again. And yes, the advancements are huge in the digital era, right? Where we have transformations going on across the industry. And as we are moving to one technology to another, you see a new innovation is already arriving in the market. And it's like trying to catch up with the cutting edge technologies, which can transform the businesses in the right way, which would have a positive impact. So automation, especially in retail, if I have to specifically talk about, have operational efficiencies have been quite significant, I would say, and taking out a lot of back-end manual processes out of the equation and ability for turning things around and focusing more on strategies rather than doing the day-to-day mundane work. So the business can actually focus more on transforming the business side of it rather than focusing on systems and technology to a larger extent. So automation and innovation in the retail industry has taken a huge steps forward in the last decade or so, especially with cloud computing coming into the picture, where the traditional data centers have been slowly moving out from the equation, and then people are moving into more cloud computing and cloud native platforms, distributed architectures, and now we are in the generation of an AI. So having said that, it also comes up with a lot of challenges as retailers, especially large retailers, where we have a lot of legacy out there and large customer base across the globe. It throws out a lot of significant challenges, especially if I wanted to focus more on the cybersecurity side of things, which is the focus area for today. Uh, the data privacy and the data compliance is one of the prime things that comes into the mind. As we are trying to enhance, sorry, I could see some pop-up there. As we are trying to enhance the customer experiences, where we are seamlessly trying to provide the customer experiences for the retail customers to come in and shop at our websites or in store if we have a brick and mortar. There are certain things that we wanted to take into consideration about the customer's privacy and how do we secure the customer data, and retail online shops and even the point of sales. In the last decade or so, if you see, there are quite a few of security breaches out there. Just wanted to call out couple, maybe in 2013, if you look at it, Target has a huge credit card breach. So it has actually opened up a lot of vulnerabilities in how the customer's privacy data or private data is being shared, and attackers could get access to it. And being an online retailer, there also are internet challenges that the retailers face in terms of who comes onto the site and how we can protect our customers, not share the customer information with anybody else. So we have to have more tightened security measures in general. And again, at the same time, as we are modernizing things, how do we integrate back into our legacy systems is another challenge. And how do we securely integrate back so that we don't open up the data that we are managing in our organizations is not opened up to the world, where we are having the customer trust and customer satisfaction. And it's also a brand value, right? As we are uh, able to meet up to the expectations of the customer, there is also a brand value associated with it. So automation definitely is helping the operational efficiencies and ability for us to drive innovative things like predictive analytics in inventory management is one of the things that comes up top of the mind, or omni-channel experiences, whether you're an online customer or whether you wanted to walk into the store, we can seamlessly provide you an omni-channel experience like buy online, pick up in store kind of features, or even the curbside, which is very famous nowadays after the COVID pandemic, right? Uh, Having said that, there are a lot more things, like we also track the customer behavior for better personalized experiences for the customer to show them right recommendations when they shop with us, or even for us to market certain things based on the customer segmentation. So there are a lot of AI based data analytics that also runs through a lot of modern AI ML models. In general, having said that, we need to track a lot of customer data, their shopping experience behavior, their behavioral pattern, their preferences, etc., etc. So we are actually touching upon a lot of sensitive data, and we also have the digital wallets, which is also a game changer in terms of having frictionless checkout process for them to have single click checkouts or express checkouts, whether it's inside the store or whether it is online. So we are actually storing a lot of sensitive data. At the same time, we have to protect those. So that is a big challenge in terms of how do we comply to these ever-changing compliances, and PCI and PII are very critical for us.
Thank you, Casey. And I know you briefly touched upon the legacy systems, right? And that was one of the questions that I was thinking about. Um, it is definitely a critical concern for the leadership, because I know JCPenney also has a lot of legacy systems still yet to be modernized, right?
Yeah.
So how do you, approach towards ensuring the scalability, the security, as well as the adaptability of these legacy systems and your path towards modernization?
That's a great question, right? So, as you're in the journey of modernizing things, often what retailers have done, especially large retailers in the industry, have done was they were able to easily move out the e-commerce into more like modern technology stack, like maybe the cloud computing and cloud native tech stacks, moving to distributed architectures. But a lot of the backend processes like your inventory or your order management systems and fulfillment systems and supply chain are still sitting in the legacy platform. So there is a lot of ways that you could handle the scalability by also the security. If I wanted to just touch upon more on security, because that is the topic of the day here. When we are modernizing the tech stacks on the top or in various areas of the organization, what we need to do is how do we shield our legacy systems is one of the three criteria that comes into the picture. And there are various ways where you could do. Security is not going to be a single point. It should be layered approach. So you have to have security at different layers. Maybe having some things like an API gateways could help us handle some of the scalability issues with our legacy systems, and going towards more of microservices architecture where we can isolate the changes and having a zero trust security approach is going to improve your security posture significantly. So any internal communication back to our legacy systems, we have to implement some kind of authentication mechanism, and having a fine-grained role-based access is another important criteria. So while we are moving towards more modern stacks, there is also a ability for us to handle how we can shed this load on the legacy systems which are still holding on. And there should be a prioritization of how do we modernize through a lot of new generation AI tools that are coming in with agent-based approaches where we can actually transform the code from legacy into modern tech stack. So the next phase where industry is going to move towards is how do they come out of the clutches of mainframes and a few of the legacy implementations that has been lying around for decades. It's very tough for the organizations to really invest on migrating those systems. So AI is going to be a huge game changer there in terms of how do we translate those code into modern stacks and embrace the modern standards. And at the same time, as I said, it should be a zero security security posture. Every layer has to be having some level of authentication when they're communicating to each other, and getting onto newer technology stacks is very much important. And also, as I said, when we are innovating, right, we are trying to create less friction for the customer, because the more friction you create, the less graceful experience the customer will have on the site or inside the store when they come in. So we try to go more towards even for logins. If you say example, passwordless logins, right, is the new trend. But how do we secure them? How do we make sure like things are secure? So everything has to be thought through very well in terms of how we can do multi-factor authentications or invisible multi-factor authentications, and what kind of technologies we use. At the same time, having these layers. Like as I said, having the API gateways on the top would probably help us to handle some of the security things at the top layer, but ability for us to have scalability issues dealt with the downstream systems, which are legacy, where we can throttle the requests, or we can create those adapter layers or facade layers to shield the legacy systems, which might not be in a position to implement modern security frameworks because of the legacy that they carry. So we have to create layers on top and able to filter at various layers and catch up issues at various layers.
Thank you, Casey. Joshua, you have immense experience in the cybersecurity space. We, as normal users, read a lot of information on the fine print media over the web about data breaches, cyber attacks globally, and we know that no organization is immune to this. What do you think are the primary cybersecurity challenges that organizations face today? And from your perspective, what do you think are the most effective strategies that we can employ to mitigate such risks?
Yes. So, no, thank you for the question. I'm really seeing threefold. I'm seeing three things happen across the industry right now. The first one, and they're all, unfortunately, a lot of these are based on the fundamentals. I mean, there are a lot of the same problems we've been solving for the past almost decade or two are still some of the boring things. So one of the same thing that's going to be a trend is unfortunately still ransomware. We're still seeing organizations still struggle. We're still seeing it ransomware dominate the headlines. It's going to be the basic old things around patch management, ensuring that your external assets aren't exposed. A lot of those things that we've known for probably around half a decade since COVID had begun are still very much present. So being ruthless with the fundamentals continues to be one of the challenges. Second areas continue to be around things like access management. As Krishnan had pointed out, having stronger multi-factor authentication, where I'm seeing many more organizations that were very resistant to maybe using YubiKeys or other type of FIDO2 authentication factors like passkeys and whatnot too. You're seeing a lot more organizations be open to that, and that they know that they have to be able to do something different. And it's very obvious that a lot of these attacks are not working for the next generation. I'm starting to work with some clients right now that are having their FIDO2 authentication factors actually compromised because, and even if they have, say, for example, device trust capabilities and certificate-based trust capabilities, they're having those compromised through bad actors who are lifting valid session cookies, where it doesn't matter if you have a username and password or a FIDO2 authentication, in addition with a certificate-based zero trust solution in place. Bad actors are stealing the results of all of those in a valid session cookie and lifting those off. So we're already seeing a lot of organizations that were resistant to even some of the basic advanced, I'll say basic kind of capabilities around strong authentication, being more open-minded. And a third, I've kind of peeked at it before, is vulnerability management. How many organizations log into their Tenable console, their Rapid7 console, their Qualys console, and they log in, they see thousands, if not tens of thousands of vulnerabilities they're unmitigated, right? There's a lot of challenges within that space. So when I see what's actually trending for within the cybersecurity space, what I'm seeing with a lot of my clients in the Custo space right now too, it's a lot of the fundamentals. Ransomware, unfortunately, continues to be a large challenge. Access management, and then also even vulnerability management as well too. I lied. I'll sneak in a fourth one, is around supply chain issues. Seeing a lot more issues, and this is continue to be an issue around your third-party risk management teams. We're seeing bad actors either compromise open source types of software and inserting backdoors maliciously, or even third parties. Of how do you make sure you keep on top of those risks as well too? I mean, I don't have to tell you, everyone knows about CrowdStrike at this point after the summer, but there's a lot more of these challenges coming up that I see is some of them are new, but a lot of them, unfortunately, are just a little bit old.
Thank you, Joshua. And how do you see, cybersecurity evolving to support automation in specific, right? Or in retail, especially for the next couple of years? Joshua, I think we lost, can't hear you.
Let me switch that. That should be better now.
Yes, that's better.
Perfect.
Thank you.
So I'll answer it threefold. I'll say the things that automation will change, the things they will not change, and the things that maybe will change.
Mhm.
On the things that it will change, immediately is anyone working in cybersecurity operations today, where we're battling a never faster set of bad actors. CrowdStrike had their 2024 threat actor report, where the average threat actor was able to have a breakout time and get lateral movement in 62 minutes. The quickest attacker was able to get lateral movement and break out in 2 minutes and 7 seconds, meaning they're able to compromise their device and then move on to the next device or next resource. The attack landscape is moving faster than ever. A lot of these AI solutions are actually helping to be able to ensure you can get a quicker response, an automated type of response to automatically contain, automatically do analysis and whatnot within moments, within seconds, or in near real time. So I'm seeing a lot of promise in that space, and that's already live today. Areas where I think that AI and automation may play a role is going to be on the application security side of things. We all know the stories that coders are, going to be gobbled up and all these other things. I'm seeing right now a lot of organizations that were piloting these solutions. And one of the things with general AI solutions and automation is they're good enough in a lot of cases, but they're not perfect. We're finding out being good enough is not enough in a lot of these cases. So that's an area I'm skeptical to be able to see how much that bar will be continuing to raise. And last, one area I can say with confidence that automation will not take on is going to be around strategy and people. This is going to be the area that all creatives should be pretty much at peace. I love the framing. I had a friend who works on the product side at Google. He works on the security product side. And he says, when they're at Google and they're looking to be able to see what to automate through AI, they look at which components and which pieces have a soul, SOUL, like a spirit, like a soul. And those are the pieces they decide not to automate. Those are going to be the human aspects, and they automate all the rest. I think also last piece I'll leave before I finish up this question is I love the framing from Peter Thiel. Had a great framing. It's like all these math artists. So you see Dolly and all these other things. Technologies coming out, and all these artists are scared for their jobs, and they're going to replace all the artists. As it's turning out, it's kind of the opposite. It's the mathematicians that are going to have a lot of their jobs actually automated, and the creatives are the ones who are going to have the most future and the most earning impact. We're seeing that in the creative economy with throughout social media. So I think it's going to have a few waves of where we can be highly confident, somewhat confident, and maybe not confident at all. It's going to have an impact.
Thank you, Joshua. Casey, just a quick question, right? Have you encountered any cybersecurity challenge specific on the automation space in, for example, JCPenney? And how did your team under your leadership circumvent this specific problem statement so that the folks here who are listening in can kind of gauge and get some information?
Yeah, again, just to touch on a few of the points there, right? It's a multifold problem. One is, as a retail organization, if you look at it, you're already vulnerable on a daily basis for much more attacks and more blast radius across the data that you are actually sharing, and with marketing companies or third parties, and et cetera. And you also have a retail e-commerce presence. So you have a significant amount of people coming onto the site, huge traffic coming onto the site. And there is a constant monitoring that is required and constant analysis that is required on how the data is being secured, whether it is data at rest or data in transit, should all be encrypted, right? And as a retailer, if you see some of the trends in the last decade or so, account takeovers and breaching on loyalty programs is one of the pain points. Not specific to JCPenney alone, but in general, largely in any retailer, if you see, that's been one of the pain points. And how do we mitigate those challenges? As Joshua also touched upon, a few things like how rigid the industry is to embrace some of these modern technology stack, like maybe having the multi-factor authentication. There is this friction that is coming in the hindsight, is where the business is looking at not to have customer friction is one challenge, but the balance between where to have a customer friction, where not to have a customer friction is very much a fine balance that we need to strike, is one of the important aspects. So if there needs to be a step up authentication for a user in the journey, we have to do that for security reasons. But having said that, we should allow more customer seamless experiences, whether he's online or on the site or in the stores. We should still allow them a seamless experience, but we should be in a position to step up their authentication on certain scenarios. So that balance should always be there. And how do we integrate with third parties? And when AI comes into the picture, we actually share a lot of this data into a lot of platforms which run the ML models. So how do we share this data and have this data being secure enough, right? So that is another aspect. And apart from that, we also largely look into AI analytics. So we can look into the anomaly detections at runtime, so that we don't have to babysit with all the business rules and the queries that are going into various applications to see, like, hey, when the user is logging in or when the user is placing an order, what kind of information that they provided, etc., etc. All these are a continuous process, and security is something that, in my experience, is not like a one-stop shop. Like it has to be done in multiple layers, and it has to be caught. Issues have to be caught at multiple layers in different phases of the life cycle. And one more important thing as part of the automation journey, one important thing is embracing these modern technology stacks. A lot of people are now moving towards open source technologies, and there's a lot of third-party vulnerabilities that brings into your ecosystem transitively. So there is a real need for us to really secure those things, like harden the things which are getting into your environment, and do the security scans upfront, do a continuous penetration testing, threat protection, etc., with all the modern technology stacks that we got. These are all various levers that we can use to protect ourselves from attacks in general. But having said that, you cannot 100% mitigate an attacker, right? You can only slow them down from coming to you so that they can move away from you. So in general, in retail, you cannot really 100% probably solve the hacker to come onto your site, but we can slow them down and make it difficult for them to penetrate into your system so that they'll go away from you. So that is one of the other strategies that we really look into. And security shifting left is another important aspect, like shift left concept, where you can try to capture issues right at the time of development, maybe doing the static code analysis using a lot of modern tools out there. And AI tools are coming up along to help us with the right security standards to be followed, and then dynamic scans like the penetration testing, etc. These are the ways we try to mitigate, with a combination of AI tools, with a combination of processes that we define, and with a combination of experiences that we define, wherever we wanted to do a step-up authentications, etc., or whether we can do a more frictionless through multi-factor authentication. So these are various things, and we capture user behavior and anomaly detections at various layers, and that's how we try to mitigate our attack blast radius and isolate the things so that we don't allow ourselves to expose our customer data or expose our internal confidential data outside as much as possible. But largely, the common issues are around account takeovers and credit card skimming, credit card frauds are typical in any retailer, and there are certain techniques that we can embrace as retailers to mitigate those, but you can only slow them down, and they come up with new ideas and new ways of cracking through the things. So we have to constantly evolve. It cannot be one time we are done and we are done kind of, right? It's never 100%. So we have to constantly evolve and keep a constant focus on security.
Thank you, Casey. And one last question, Joshua, for you, right? We talked a lot about AI, ML models, and whatnot, right? And Gen AI as well. What, from your perspective, is the most exciting emerging technology that you see and you foresee as well in cybersecurity? And how do you see that shaping the future of innovation as well as automation?
Well, I mean, the obvious one that you have to say is what AI. I mean, I could maybe say crypto, I guess. I don't know. That maybe makes me a little bit of a dud until one more year and Bitcoin's at $250,000 or something, right? So I will say those two. I will say AI and then also crypto. But probably more important, I'll say why. There's a reset button that is being hit right now for each and every single one of the people. That's all of us, each and every single person that's listening on this webinar right now. I was 27 years old when I took over the role at Capital One, and it was the head of cloud engineering. That was probably around a decade ago, before most people would spell AWS. Now everyone uses cloud and multiple IaaS providers and SaaS providers, hundreds of SaaS providers, right? But I'm excited because this is going to be a reset button, and every single one that gave me the opportunity over a decade ago to be able to leapfrog all the people that had more experience than I did, people who know more than I did. I have people now in that position that are coming from my job that are trying to do my role better than I am. That's AI enabled, right? So I'm excited for those probably two areas because it's going to be a paradigm shift. You know, word gets overused too much, but it's going to reset the button. And a lot of you are going to have an opportunity that you never had before. And this is the beauty of work hard and hunker down and learn some of these new technologies and become a builder. You're going to really have an opportunity to be able to jump ahead and to be able, and that makes me most excited.
Got it. Thank you, Joshua. Thank you, Casey. Let me see. We'll jump into questions. I haven't seen any questions coming in. Yes, I see two of them. One question probably for you, Casey. I'll just read out the question from Daniel. As a leader at JC, as a leader at JCPenney, what are the specific operational areas that have benefited the most from automation?
Definitely, we have looked at our merchandising areas where we could have a lot of operational efficiencies, where the merchants could handle large volumes of incoming intake of product categories, and ability for our taxonomy teams to run through those categories and create the site experience as well. So one area is on the merchandising side. I would say there's a lot of focus, and then we are also focusing a lot on the point of sale and the supply chain automation right now, where we already have seen benefits on the digital side, and some of the omnichannel experiences in the recent past. In the last decade, we did a few things over there, and we are already seeing the results. But right now, the focus is more on supply chain and moving towards more of AI capabilities. Does it answer your question?
Yeah, we'll wait for Daniel if he has another follow-up. Another question, probably I know, Casey, you would have an answer for this, but for Joshua, right? I mean, how do you think, security testing, penetration testing, and vulnerability management, basically, right, should be effectively roll up into the automation space? It is, we have these pipelines built in. That's a regular, phenomenon that runs today. But from your perspective, how do you think this can be a bit more effective?
Yeah. So I approached this question maybe around 6 months ago, looking at some of these newer AI pen testing type of assisted tools and whatnot. And I was kind of blown away. I was surprised at how well they were. I think I'm pretty smart, and I was wrong. I had my head of pen testing come in on the Cousteau side, and he helped me reframe the question. And I think this is where an opportunity I imagine others have the same opportunity as well too. I was originally asking the question of, are these AI tools helpful? Which is the wrong question to ask. The right question to ask is, are they worth it in comparison to the alternatives? And that's the question we are raising. Should we actually hire another junior pen tester on the Cousteau's team, or would you rather have this AI solution? Hands down, it was we should hire another junior level pen tester. A lot of the AI assisted solutions when it comes to pen testing are very helpful when it comes to automating some larger tasks. I think where the organizations that I've seen get the most amount of value are probably going to be very, very high end or the very, very low end when it talks to size of people on the cybersecurity team. If you have a full-blown red team, 9 people, they're at it every single day. These types of tools add an immense amount of value. If you're on the low end, for whatever reason, you're trying to do regular pen tests and you have a quarter of a person, they can be extremely valuable. But for the vast majority of organizations in between that, in my opinion, they are helpful, which is the wrong question to ask, but they're not worth it in comparison to the alternatives. The second dovetail of that's point 1 around pen testing. Point 2 is around vulnerability management. I'm super biased. You can say, go to Cousteaus.com and you'll see why we do manage vulnerability management in that space. Our thesis being is that there's the vulnerability management tooling space has a $18 billion total TAM, total available market within the space. And it's growing at an 8% year-over-year type of rate. There's a lot of tools, and most organizations, to be flat honest, still suck at vulnerability management. Our thesis being that vulnerability management is not just a technology problem, it is a people process problem. You already know, I have a laundry list of things I'm actually working on right now, why this is actually true. I mean, you can go down the list, out-of-date scanners, false positives because you have assets that have the port open, but the service not enabled on the back end. You can go down you have systems crapping out because they have low disk space. There's a lot of manual problems in these kinds of things that AI is not going to solve anytime soon. So, vulnerability. So that's maybe my best answer, which is maybe not the answer someone was looking for, but hopefully it's a useful one.
Thank you, Joshua. So this is one more question, probably in the interest of time, that I'll put down for both of you. Right, probably starting with Joshua and then over to Casey. And this is a pretty interesting question from William. How do you think AI currently can be leveraged to maintain software dependencies, right? Effectively as well as securely? Because it's a moot point in terms of several options available. Joshua?
Wow, that's the hard one. That is a very hard one. I wish I was going second on this one, but I haven't found an effective way to be able to think about this in context to make the answer you're asking. I have thought about this very much so in a very narrow problem around patch management, which obviously on the cybersecurity side, I'm very in that kind of construct of things, right? Which may be the lens you're coming through. I could share what we did at Shopify, and it was much more useful kind of framing when we talk about maintaining dependencies for the purpose of patch management, because the purpose can greatly vary what level is acceptable. We looked at a variety of canary tests where looking at patching resiliency was the way we actually looked about things, where there's some areas where we were highly confident that we had a high impact, high security impact, and low probability of any type of interruption, business interruption. Those were, as much as we could, we do auto type of patching in that kind of area. At the very bottom and the hardest side, we had those that were highly confident that have a high impact and have a varying degree of impact, maybe like an operating system type of update, for example, Mac OS. In those areas, for example, on enterprise, we would actually implement instead hard and soft blocks, where we would tell the user you have 1 week, then a soft block, and then after 1 week, you have a hard block that says you cannot access your Okta apps or something like that. And then in between, you have the varying degrees of confidence. We have a set of canary tests to be able to test that resiliency across different tooling and whatnot, to be able to do those types of dependency updates, to be able to test your capabilities. So I completely made a bunch of assumptions that you're asking about this in the patch management kind of context, which may or may not be correct. But I would start with that framing first of what problem you're trying to be able to solve first, because that's going to greatly depend on what the scope and what's acceptable tolerances within that context of that answer. So that was my best recommendation. If that wasn't the question or problem statement you're trying to solve, be as specific as that, because it'll greatly manage your dependencies around your problem statement you're trying to solve.
Thank you, Joshua. And Casey, what's your point of view?
Yeah, one of the things that comes to my mind, AI could play a good role, especially with open source softwares, which is a trend in a lot of automation, right? Is how do we keep up to the compliance with licensing? That is one area where we spend a lot of time reviewing the license verbiages of all these open source softwares, and a lot of time from the legal and various departments in an organization spend a lot of time in evaluating this. So for us to have compliance also met, AI tools could probably help us in those areas of helping with license compliance evaluations automatically. And I give you an example of my experience of how these AI tools have helped me in open source softwares, at least, it helps us define certain dependencies which can enhance security in one way, or implement the right coding standards so that we can have more shift left of our security posture. If you look at it, catching a lot of things in the development phase, that's where a lot of these AI plugins, which are now with IDEs, which are coming out. Example is AWS Q for developers is an example I could give you, right? It gives you more at the developer level to identify what kind of dependencies I need to have for my application. And it also gives you the full list of where to download it from, and all the release notes and the licensing compliance definitions, etc., for you to review it. Definitely, it's not like 100% automated. You should still have some kind of manual intervention, because I don't want us to get into a phase where we completely depend on a tool and assume it is going to do the right things for us. So validating those is very important. While it is giving you some value in terms of, as Joshua mentioned, about patch management is very important, and ability for us to continuously integrate within our CI pipelines to say whether we are having any security vulnerabilities through these AI platforms. But again, there is a balance of when to intervene and manually validate things versus when to completely depend on the output that it is spitting out. There is definitely still a lot of room for us to develop in those areas from an AI tooling perspective. I don't think they are there yet. I can see a mixed outcomes based on my experience and how I'm hearing from a lot of leaders out there. Like there is still like mixed responses, and it's not there yet, I would say. So a lot of things have to be based on our own manual intervention and reviewing things and validating of what it has outputted. So at least for me, patch management and then license compliance are two things where we can also enable better security vulnerability capturing right at the time of development, so that we can move more towards shift left concept. Those are the three things I can see where AI tools or AI could help us with dependency management securely.
Thank you, Casey. And William, I hope that you got two of the experts give their 2 point of views. I hope that did answer your question. In the interest of time, I think I've summarized more or less all the questions that we have. And that should bring us to the end of today's webinar. A big thank you to Casey and Joshua for sharing your time and insights as well, and to all our attendees for joining us today. If you would like to connect with us, please feel free. All the contact details, I mean, in terms of the email, is right now in front of you on the slide. Please feel free to reach out at any point in time. We do look forward to your participation in the upcoming webinars as well. Thank you so much once again, and have a wonderful day and happy holidays.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.